Hello, everybody. This is another episode of Max 101. I'm here with my friend Chris Green from Tyketto. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing fabulous, mate. It's really lovely for you to have me on here.
Oh, no, man. Thank you so much. And we have a friend in common, Ian McCarty, or I don't know. You pronounce it
Yeah,
better than me.
yep.
So he's a very good friend of mine, and that's awesome. And thank you, Ian, for making the connection here. And Chris, how's everything? Tell me about what you're working these days. Are you writing songs? Are you practicing riffs or shredding?
I've been doing a lot of playing recently. There was a when this whole pandemic started, I got busy doing videos and concentrating on getting my YouTube channel, with more content and regular content.
Okay.
Um, and then all of my my studio computers went down. Like first of all, the my main Mac Pro tower that I use for recording somehow somehow synced with my Dropbox and maxed out my entire memory, so it just
Oh
froze
no.
when you're recording. And then my MacBook went down as well, so that's just been refurbished. But in the meantime, I had this lovely 2 weeks where I couldn't do anything.
Oh.
So I cleared my studio out of all of the equipment that I usually, because behind me here, usually there's stands for, the cameras and multiple angle cameras and pedal boards out and all this stuff. And I just had like a cleanse. And it seems like the feng shui is all right in the studio. And I've just been coming down here and just playing for the sake of playing, which has been really, really nice.
That's awesome, and I love those moments. When you can, enjoy some peace and create. Right, those are very creative moments.
Yeah.
So, Chris, I want to talk a little bit about you as an artist, as a musician, but I have to go, back in the day, and I asked you this question in another interview, but, you told me that one of the moments when you realized that you wanted to be a musician was in a concert, right? You were attending
Yeah.
to a concert, you were in the audience, looking at the stage. Tell me about that experience.
Okay, so my first real rock concert was Mon- uh, there's a place in England called Castle Donington. They still do the Download Festival there,
Hmm.
but back in the day, I think the first year they did it was 1980. It was called the Monsters of Rock
Okay.
Festival, and it was just a one-day festival back then. You'd have five bands, six bands maybe, and just a one-day event. But you'd go up there on the Friday night, everyone would drink, and Saturday would be the festival, and then you'd all crash out and drive home on Sunday. It was really cool. I liked it.
Nice.
It was There was no distractions of other stages. It was just when the band stopped, everyone went and got more beer, and then we all headed back down, trying to get as close to the stage as you could. And as a 15-year-old, it was my first ever real rock concert, and it was Whitesnake headlining, then Aerosmith, Poison, the Choir Boys, and Thunder was the opening band.
Wow.
Weirdly enough, later on, the bass player of Thunder, Chris, ended up in Tyketto.
Wow.
So it was a real, and I ended up, being friends with the singer of the Choir Boys. Later on, I ended up being friends with a lot of these people that I had really just idolized as a kid.
Hmm.
But the feeling of it was a very strange experience because the night before, Poison were my favorite band back then,
Cool.
and even though they're not my favorite band now because I discovered what I would class as more articulate guitar players,
Hmm.
than CC DeVille. I just really didn't know what was out there. So Poison was my bag, and my friend, the singer of Pride and Furion, the other bands I was in, Matt Mitchell, was like, Poison are playing up in London at the Marquee Club. Now the Marquee used to be like a really, really good rock venue, very prestigious, small venue. My dad used to play there back in the day. In fact, David Bowie, when he was called David Jones, used to be my dad's support act. Uh,
Wow.
at the Marquee Club. So it's a prestigious place. Anyway, Matt says, "Come on, let's go up there." And my sister talked me out of it. She was like, "Look, we're going. I'm taking you to Castle Donington tomorrow. You shouldn't. You never know what's going to happen. You might get stuck in London. You don't want to miss this festival." So I'm like, "Okay." I call Matt back, and I'm like, "Don't worry about it." He calls me at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Wakes everybody up in the house, because it's landline. It's like a ring phone, like a rotary dial phone. And I head downstairs. I'm like, "Hey," he's like, "Chris, I really wish you'd come. We ended up in Poison's hotel room."
Wow.
Now you got to understand, in 1990, rock stars were untouchable.
Exactly.
You know,
Unreachable also.
yeah, and to a certain extent, some of them still are, like your Aerosmiths, your Bon Jovis,
Yeah.
um, the singer of my band at the time, and the singer who was in Pride and Furion, Matt, he calls me up and he says, "Man, I wish you'd come to that show. I really wish you'd come to that show at the Marquee because I'm here in Poison's hotel room partying with them."
Wow.
And what had happened is he couldn't get in the show because he wasn't 18. Now, they were pretty strict back in the day. So as 15-year-olds, we would have just sat outside, which is what he did. He just went round the corner with a couple of hardcore fans who knew the venue and said, "There's a side stage door. If we just hang out here, we might see them before they get in the limousine when they leave." And they did, and Ricky Rocket comes out and he's
Wow.
like, "Hey guys, I'm sorry you couldn't make it into the show. Do you want to come back to the hotel and party with us?" And I was so livid with my sister for making that decision of saying, "You don't want to go to that show. You might miss down." And he ends up getting a lift to Castle Donington in an ice cream van the next day.
Nice.
I met him there.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
but anyway, the show starts. Thunder are the first band on, and they open with the song "She's So Fine," and I'll never forget just the sound of that. It was a Les Paul through a Marshall, and then it was just the vocals and guitar. And then when the band came in, there was just, I've got goosebumps just thinking about it now. Like it was, I can't even explain the feeling. There's something about going to a festival show
Hmm.
that when the kick drum just like hits you here.
Wow. Yeah,
It,
I know
it's
that
just,
feeling.
it's pushing air. Like you
Yeah.
really, really feel it. Like just thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of watts of power. And it was just absolutely amazing. I think I actually had to go to sleep during Aerosmith because I'd like worn myself out. I was like I had to go to the back of the arena and just like, crash out on the grass for a little bit. But I remember when Whitesnake came on, that was really life changing because even though a lot of people aren't fans of the Vandenberg Vi era of Whitesnake with the Slip of the Tongue album,
Hmm.
it was, I think, their most awesome lineup as far as musicianship was concerned.
Gotcha.
Pound for pound, Rudy
Yeah.
Sarza, Tommy Aldridge, Adrian Vandenberg, Steve Vai, David
Yeah.
Coverdale.
Woof.
It was a super group, you know. And when they came on, I was just like, this is untouchable. I have to be able to do this at some point in my life. Like to have that, the spotlights and the sound and the stage presence and just everything that was involved. It was just nothing short of magical. It was absolutely
Very
amazing.
cool. And let me ask you this. So, were you already playing guitar by then, or you started to play guitar after that?
I was absolutely terrible. Um, I wasn't really any good on the guitar, or what people would maybe class as being any good on the guitar, until after I came out of GIT, the Guitar Institute of Technology in
Yeah.
London,
Okay.
which I went to when I was 19. So I basically had at 15, at this time, I had a band called Spread Eagle. We didn't even know that there was a band in America called Spread Eagle back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no internet. You know, and someone said, "Oh, I've got a bootleg tape of some band called Spread Eagle," and because my dad managed the band, I mean, I say managed it. He just used to help us
Mm-hmm.
get a few local gigs and stuff. Um, but it was, you know, we were trying to be Poison. We were trying to sound like an American melodic rock band. We changed the name to Spread Eagle UK because we thought that would make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Choir Boys did the same. They changed it to London Choir Boys. That's what a lot of people in America know them as. But we sounded terrible. I mean, all bands back then, all kids that were like, it's not like now when you go online and you see some, you know, virtuoso kid at 11 years old shredding Ingve Malmsteen. It just all sounded like punk music because as soon as you just throw power chords together and put musicians together that I just can barely play it. I'm sorry, punk music fans, but that's basically what it sounds like. Like, punk music's like the first step on the ladder of what you're capable of doing as a musician, you know? And then if you want to take it a step further than that, you level up to, you know, some melodic rock or, you know, blues or something. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we were fucking terrible. I mean, it was, I've still got some demos and it just, I knew a couple of tapping licks, you know, like it was, I'd have these tapping licks that I'd learned, like, you know, like this kind of stuff. And probably not even executed as nicely. But, you know, I'd do my little tapping lick. I knew no scales. 17 years old, a friend of my sister's turns around and says, "Oh, do you use that pentatonic scale?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" This guy that, like, just had an acoustic guitar in his bedroom was like, "Oh, this is the pentatonic scale." And I'm talking about someone that could play it terribly. And I'm like, I've just learned what, in hindsight, is the most important scale that I would ever learn from my sister's mate. How did I not know that? So,
Yeah. You,
when
you
you
say
start,
your sorry, you say your dad so your dad was a musician also or he was involved in the business?
yeah, my dad was a musician all of his life. He was a musician in 7 decades. He started playing in 1959,
Wow.
and his last gig, the last time he played live was the night before my wedding at my wedding party in Edinburgh. And
Okay.
me and him and Matt and Lee from Furion, we sang.
Very
We did,
nice.
yeah, we did like Maggie May, Bring It On Home. I think we may have done an Eagles track,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
What?
and that's the last time he played before he died.
Yeah, sorry, man. What, Chris? Tell me, what kind of music did your dad play back in the day, and how that influenced you as a musician?
Okay, so you know, because later in life he would tell me all of his stories. You know,
Yeah.
he actually wrote 3 books. It was, you know, the biographies. And
Wow.
it's funny, really, because he wrote the first biography because because he was a recovered alcoholic, and
Okay.
he thought that coming out of the alcoholic clinic that he wouldn't survive. So he wrote this biography
Oh,
thinking he was going
wow.
to die, but he didn't. He was 26 years sober,
Nice.
and so he wrote another book. Um, he wrote another book when he found out he had cancer, because then he thought he was going to die, and then he got over the cancer. So he wrote a third biography book
Nice.
that was then about. It was called The Latchkey Kid, and it was about him growing up, you know,
Okay.
kind of post World War.
Exactly. Exactly. That was one. So your father lived all that, horrible, era of war, bombing,
Yeah,
and all that really horrible, horrible, life that people there in England, right?
yeah, and he, you know, because he was. he was born in '44, so he was a war baby, and grew up really amongst the rubble of what had happened in the war.
Yeah.
Saw some crazy stuff. But I think music-wise, he picked up the guitar when he was 14 or 15, and I think the first band he was in was a skiffle band, and so it was basically what music was popular at the time.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I think he started when he was 13, and he was already out gigging by 15 because that
Wow.
was 59. So he was in skiffle bands. He was in a surf band called the Somerset. He was in a band called the Vampires, Countdown and the Zeros, and he was in a bunch of bands that would go over to Hamburg, which was a popular place for English bands to go over and play at the time. And he would go in. They'd do a residency where they'd live above the venue and they'd play there for like a month or so. He'd come out, the Beatles would be the next band in, they would leave. Elton John, who was called Reggie's Blues Odyssey at the time, he'd be the next band in. They all played together, like no one was famous yet. So he had some really great stories about all of them, the Stones, the Beatles, Elton John.
Because your dad was born almost the same, years that the Rolling Stones. I think they're from the early '40s too, right?
Yeah, exactly. They were all the same.
Yeah.
It's like, and he said to me, he says, you love these stories that I tell you about these bands. He goes, but you got to understand that they're only funny because the bands ended up famous. He goes, I could tell you 100 stories just as funny of other bands that just never made it. He goes,
wow.
It's just so that those guys made it.
Wow, amazing, man.
Yeah, he's a
so. And then, do you still use your dad advices, or sometimes your dad doesn't have to give you an advice. You learn by looking at your dad, doing something, and then you mimic it, or it stays with you. Do you still use some of his teachings or music knowledge?
I mean, he showed me the initial. He gave me the initial tools to play guitar, but he never wanted to teach me.
Okay.
Yeah, both him and my mum never wanted me to be a musician.
Oh, wow. That was one of my questions. So you just answered that. Wow.
So I think my mum didn't want me to be a musician because she didn't want me to be like my dad, because she associated it with late nights, drinking, all of this the stuff that goes hand in hand with musicianship. And I think for the same reasons, my dad was like, I don't want you to have this life of uncertainty, of wondering where the next gig's coming from, or wondering when the next tour is, and all this kind of stuff. But it never deterred me. So his friend, Steve Hawkins, he taught me how to play Shadows numbers and Dire Straits and all of this kind of stuff. It wasn't until this is when I was 11. It wasn't until I was 15 that I played rock music, when my sister first played Appetite for Destruction. But what my dad did give me, he always talked to me about the music business. So before I was really even good at being able to play the guitar, I understood basics about record contracts, management, percentages that they take,
Nice. That's very important. That's very important.
Yeah.
Not
really
everybody knows that, and you can get in trouble, So that's very cool that you started from the scratch with that knowledge.
Yeah. He told me. I mean, there was one specific occasion where it was the first. We were in a band called Mind, and it was like a prog rock band, Dream Theory, Queensryche, but it also had that 70s Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer kind of thing going on as well. And we got offered our first record contract. I'm guessing we were 20, when would it be? Probably 97, 23 years old, I guess we were around that, 22 or 23. And the label was Pony Canyon, Japanese label. At the time, this kind of music was popular more in Japan because it had disappeared in America. grunge. It had given way to grunge, but Japan had stayed very loyal to this kind
Yes.
of music, you know.
Yes.
So hence we got offered this contract, and our manager, who was a guy called David Courtney, he was also managing Roger Daltrey at the time, and he gives us this contract, and I gave it a quick read through, and I was like, yeah, let me keep this overnight. So I called my dad up on the phone. I'm like, Dad, there's a load of shit in this contract, long words that I have no idea what's going on. He said, well, pick the longest word and tell me what it is. And I'm like, okay, there's the thing here that says cross-collateralization. And I'm like, what the fuck is cross-collateralization? And he said, are there other band names on the contract? And I said, yeah, there's 2 other bands on the contract. And he said, right, this is what it means. He goes, how much does it say next to the advances? And our band had the biggest advance, and then it scaled down, you know, wherever it was. It wasn't a lot of money. It might have been like maybe 10 grand or something, and then the next band was 7, the next band was 4.
Okay.
Cross-collateralization meant that the record company hedged its bets. It meant that whoever sold the records first, all the advances were connected. So if 2 of the bands never sold a record, the 3rd band was responsible for recouping every other band's advance.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is really cheeky, because it's the record company's like, well, this is great because, you know, we got 3 to 1 chance here that, you know, 1 in 3 chance that someone's going to make it. But anyway, I went back to the manager and I was like, come on, man, like, you must think we're stupid if we're going to sign this. And this was really back in the day where managers still weren't saying to their bands, hey, go and get legal advice, please, because it's going to be better for both of us if something happens.
Yeah.
They're all just trying to pull the wool over your eyes, you know?
Crazy,
So,
man.
always some golden advice that he gave me. My dad was always good for that music
Very
advice.
nice, man. Thank you for sharing, man, because this is very interesting. I learned a lot. Listen, how did it happen that you moved to United States? You know, was because of Tyketto, or you moved to train a different band before?
Let me think. In 2003, when I was in the band Pride, we did a tour with Firehouse, and actually Danny Vaughan was the middle act.
Okay.
Bizarrely enough, I mean, I knew him, and I knew all of the guys who were in the band. He'd asked if I would play guitar on that tour, but Pride were like, no, man, we don't want you doing double duty. Like, you're going to be playing Pride, toweling off, jumping back on stage to do a whole nother set. So anyway, me and CJ from Firehouse became very, very good friends on that tour. We're still very, very good friends today.
Cool.
He's the godfather of my son. He was best man at my wedding. I was best man at his wedding. And, you know, we put together a band called Rubicon Cross, which was like a heavy, more gritty, drop-tuned version of Firehouse. If you get a chance, listen to that album. In fact, you know what? Give me your address after this and I'll send you a copy of it. But anyone who's watching, look up Rubicon Cross. And that's the band, CJ Snare, singer of Firehouse, and myself, and some guys from Chicago. It was a one-off album. We're very, very proud of that one.
Cool.
But CJ, you know, I'd come over to America to write songs with him on a couple of occasions. And when I met my wife, Amanda, I met her in some shitty punk bar in Chicago. In fact, the way we met, I'd said to the concierge guy at the hotel, I said, call a taxi and tell him to drop us off at the shittiest bar in Chicago. I want the worst of the worst dive bar that Chicago has to offer. And he did. He pulled through. He dropped me off at this absolute shithole called Exit. And my now wife was working behind the bar.
Oh man, that's a cool story, man.
So that's how we met. But when I realised that me and her were getting serious around mid-2008, I said to him, come on, man, help me out. Can you get me in a band over here in America? And we were sitting in an IHOP having some breakfast, and he went, you know what, I think I do know. Gunnar Nelson from Nelson had called the week before and said, hey, it looks like I might be looking for a guitar player because he had a band called Scrap Metal.
Okay.
And Scrap Metal was like a revolving door band where the core of the band was Gunnar Nelson, Matt Nelson, guitar vocal, bass vocal,
Uh-huh.
Mark Slaughter, the singer of Slaughter, Mark,
Yeah.
Slaughter's drummer, Tim DeDuro, and God, for the life of me, God, Todd, who was the keyboard player in Nelson at the time.
Okay.
So that was the core band, and Joel Hoekstra was the guitar player.
Yep.
But Joel had just joined Night Ranger,
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
so he couldn't play anymore, and Gunnar had put the feelers out. So CJ immediately puts me in touch with Gunnar. The next thing you know, 2008 just became crazy. I ended up being guitar player in Nelson, guitar player in Scrap Metal. Bill Levity, the guitar player of Firehouse, fell sick, and I ended up playing guitar in Firehouse in a tour of India. Like it was a whirlwind. I also did. The Nelson brothers also did this act called Ricky Nelson Remembered. Now their dad was Ricky Nelson, who was, nearly as big as Elvis in America.
Yeah, wow.
And
Very cool.
we did a cruise liner gig like that where we played Ricky Nelson songs. I was so busy that year, and then me and Amanda decided we were going to get married, and then I had a decision to make. I had a decision like, do I drop my band Furion, my English band,
Yep.
who I loved, and I still love, but I won't be able to do that from America. It's just that we don't make the kind of money that allows me to fly back and forward from America.
Yeah.
So I made the decision. I'm gonna move to America, and as soon as I did that, the work dried up.
I know, crazy.
There I was in America, and I'm like, oh shit! Now I've made this move over here, and none of the bands that I was playing with are really playing anymore. So I was basically unemployed for a while. I put together a stoner rock band in Chicago called Space Wolf,
Okay.
which I released a single for. I was singing in that band.
Oh, nice. I didn't know you sing, man.
Well, I don't. I mean, if you listen to if you're out there and you want to hear me doing a very bad version of singing in a band, the band's called Space Wolf, and the track is called Valhalla. It's on iTunes. You can stream Spotify. If you go on YouTube, you'll see I threw together a video, a lyric video for it. But the only reason I sang in that band is because no one else would, and we couldn't find a singer. And I said, I'll do it until we find someone else, and we never found anyone else.
And then, how many years you been in Tyketto? Like 4 or 6?
Yeah, let me think. 2013 is when they first called me.
Oh, so then 7 years, right? 7+ years. Very cool. Yeah. I thought you were less amount of time. So, and tell me about this experience, Tyketto, man. That like a legendary band. How was how did you get familiar with the songs? Was something easy for you?
I knew of Tyketto, of course, because I knew Danny anyway. I'd got up and played 2 tracks with him at a festival before. I played Forever Young and Strength in Numbers with him, so I knew some of the tracks. Mm-hmm. I knew Forever Young because even before I knew Danny, we used to go to this rock club in Brighton. Actually, I think it was in Hove, called the Greenhouse Effect. And it was a melodic rock night, and there was like maybe 100 people there, which was pretty much the only people left in the town that still listened to that music. So it was like this real underground, cool bar. And the last song, every time it was on, every Friday night, was Forever Young by Tyketto. It was the last song. So everyone would hit the dance floor. You just grab my guitar.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that.
Everyone would hit the dance floor, and can you hear that?
Yeah, nice.
Okay, yeah, and everyone.
everybody.
I'm like, that riff to me at the time was like, that's a signature riff.
Yeah, very
You know,
nice.
it's a wonderful riff. Like,
Yeah, it's
you know,
powerful, man.
yeah, I mean, every band's kind of got, well, not even every band, a lot of, Skid Row's got Youth Gone Wild,
Yep.
Poison's got Talk Dirty to Me, the bands, they have these riffs, but every now and again you get a riff that is just so anthemic that no matter where you are, you're like, man, I have to pump my fist to this stuff. It's just
Definitely.
the
That's so
lyrics were
cool.
the lyrics. All it's about, it's about people like I was back then. Like unemployed musician. Maybe you got a girlfriend and you got your guitar and you just believe you're going to make it one day, and
Yeah.
it's just this song of hope. And I'm like, so. You fast forward a little bit, and I get a phone call, random phone call. Let me think. It might have been. I still lived in Chicago at the time,
Uh-huh.
but I was in Atlanta when I got the call. And Danny said, "Hey, man, listen. I already know you're probably going to say no because you're always busy and you're always playing with all these other bands.
Uh-huh.
But Brooke has left Tyketto, and I wondered if you'd consider joining the band." He goes, "It'll be a pretty easy process. I already know you're playing. I already know that you're good enough to do this. I guess I'm just asking if you'll do it." So it was that simple, and I've got to be honest, it was a very quick answer. I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Because
Nice,
just
nice,
at the
nice.
right time, I was at my in-laws' house here in Atlanta, and I remember I was feeling that frustration of like, what do I do, man? I just recorded my solo EP, Unveil. I got that out there, but I was like, I want to be in a band again. It was just at the right time. And the process was like really easy. It was, he said, "Listen, I'm going to introduce you to Mike, the drummer, who really is the driving force behind the band."
Wow.
And he said, I just need one thing from you. Just send me, I think he said 3 videos. He was like, "Just send me a quick video of you playing Forever Young."
Yeah, one, two, no problem.
Yeah, right, yeah. Seasons off the first album, and I think the other one was let me think. I think it was Strength in Numbers. He wanted me to play like a bunch of different ones that
Hmm.
had different feels to them, So it's like,
Love it. Love it.
the groove riffs, the
Yeah.
drop riffs, and all. He
What's your
wanted to know
favorite one? What's your favorite one, Chris?
my favorite. Let me tune it up because it deserves no less than perfect tuning. Hang on.
No big deal. This is just a podcast, so yeah, that doesn't have to be
No, we're good.
perfect.
Hey, listen, it's my OCD. I'm sorry, people. Okay, so my favorite one is "Lay Your Body Down."
Oh, wow.
And they talked about taking it out of the set for one tour, and I was like, I ain't doing it. I ain't coming out. You take that off. I'm not coming out. It's got that great swing to it.
Wow.
It's just got like, there's something about it that I can always just, like if they let me go for 100 bars, I would just be able to just keep going. There's something about the tempo, something
Yeah.
about the groove. It's got a swing feel to it. And for me, my kind of playing,
Yeah.
although I do love shred, I mean, like most of the time I'm doing all this kind of. Most of the time I love string skipping and sweep kicking. And usually I'm all over the place like this. but you know, suddenly you give it a, you know, it's just there's something about it that you just it's
There,
bebop, it's
there,
groovy.
there sounds, or you name it, songs or whatever that fits to everyone differently. Like there, I don't know why we feel more. We feel an appeal, like more attraction to certain sounds, or I don't know why. And it's very, I mean, I understand perfectly what you just said, and I love it. Thank you for keep playing
Oh,
it, man,
yeah,
the
of
guitar.
course, man. I mean, I just love playing. The thing about Tyketto that people, they always ask us, man, they're like, look, you, all the time you're up there, every one of you on the stage is smiling and laughing. You know, we're always like, our bass player now, Greg, I mean, he's such a killer player. You know, he plays in Ted Nugent. He was in Alice Cooper on that. Yeah,
Wow.
he was on Wayne's World. You know, he was in Alice Cooper's band at that point. You know, on
Hmm.
the Hey Stupid tour. You know, he was in Rainbow. Uh, Billy Joel. He played with Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. I mean,
Wow.
this geezer's like played with everybody, and he'll let you know about it too. That the stories that that guy comes out with on tour are absolutely hilarious. But and we'll be like jamming like this, and you know, like because you know we've been playing for so many years that we'll be like, you know, we're just jamming little things like this, and I'll be just be going like, hey, Greg, a couple of beers afterwards, cool. Yeah, we're just like, and we're on stage just jamming and talking at the same time because we just gel together like that.
That's awesome, man. That's amazing.
And people always
Amazing.
ask us,
Love it.
they're like, listen, are the smiles bullshit? Is it like the Eagles, where all of a sudden you walk off stage, everyone goes in their separate directions, and nobody talks to each other again? Now, I'm not saying that that hasn't happened before, you know,
Hmm.
because every band has its moments,
Yeah,
you know, but 99.9% of the time when we're on stage, we're just having a blast, you
dude.
know, and
That's what it's all about, man. And also the stage is like such an energy, with the audience and all the magic that's happening at that moment is amazing, man.
yeah.
Chris, tell me what's the latest news about Tyketto or any other project that you are working on now?
What because of the current situation with lockdown and the
Yep.
pandemic, yeah, unfortunately, Taiketo had to cancel every show that we had
Yeah.
in 2020.
Yep.
So our next shows are there's a March 2021
Okay.
UK, and right now, and until everybody in the band knows where they are, you know, because everyone in the band, we're all musicians. So, you know, Greg, Danny,
Hmm.
myself, everything we earned money wise was music related. You
Yeah.
know, Mike, our drummer, had a booking agency in Jersey. So, you know, that
Collapse.
just collapsed the moment
Yeah,
that
man. It's
Jersey
horrible. Horrible, man.
went on shutdown. So everyone just went, okay, look, we'll rebook the tour for 2021, but let's just cancel. Let's just put everything on hold until we know where we are.
Hmm.
Because right now, you know, we can't do a, you know, we're not going to sit there here trying to put together like a new album or a new video or something when we don't know
Yeah.
when we might be able to get work again. You know?
Exactly. Exactly.
And yeah, luckily for most of us, we've been able to generate some kind of income from.
So, Chris, what's your message to the fans, that are dying to go to a concert, are dying to listen to new music, what's your message of hope for them?
Okay, so 2020 looks like it's going to be a bust. Okay, um, but when it comes to 2021, I'm not talking about us, but get out there and see these bands. Get out there and support them because If there's one thing really that we know, if people are watching your show right now, they're music fans, you know, and whether it's Tyketto or Megadeth or Cannibal Corpse or Rick Astley, whoever it is, you know, that music is a huge part of our lives. Um, Everyone's got a soundtrack to their life, man. You know, so get out there and just support those bands as soon as they can get back out again. You know, I know everyone's hurting for money, but you know, just choose to drink three less beers at the show and support the bands. You know, buy a
Yeah,
piece of merch, keep them going because if you don't do that, the whole thing's just going to implode. You know, there's already so many people that venues that are going to shut down. You know, everyone hurts from this. It's not just the band. It's the lighting riggers. It's the roadies. It's the guitar techs. It's
everybody.
the sound guys. It's the bartenders at the venues themselves, the promoters, the
Yeah, everybody.
managers, everybody
Crazy, man.
is losing
But
out
you
there.
know
So,
what? Next, I hope, right? Like next concert of Taiketo or whatever you're playing, I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna go backstage and we're gonna do a live interview for the
let's do it.
fans
Let's do it.
and more guitar playing and more, music talking. It's always awesome talking to you, Chris. You're such a true musician,
Oh,
talented, and it's amazing, to that you pull the guitar and just, that's a true musician. Somebody who just starts singing out of the blue, or just grab the guitar and start playing. That's a real musician, no fear. Just grab it and play.
yes.
Uh,
That's all I've
I,
got. So if I can do one thing right, then that's good.
So no, I want to thank you for the opportunity, because to me, I just am a fan. I love music, and I feel that I'm contributing a little bit, to promote, music to connect people,
Yeah,
because this show is always watched outside of United States. I'm from Argentina,
yeah,
and I have friends all over the world, and that's a cool thing about it. We connect people, that probably don't have access to United States, to go to a festival or something, so that at least they have a little bit of something to watch and enjoy,
yeah.
So Chris, thank you again, and I'll talk
Thanks.
to you soon, brother.
All right. Thanks again, mate.
Yeah.